You thought it was love. You gave, you tried, and maybe you even lost yourself a little. And now, you're left sitting with the silence, the questions, and the ache of a breakup. But let me tell you something right now. This pain you're feeling, it's not the end, it's your beginning. This isn't your breakdown. It's your breakthrough. Let's talk about how to turn that pain into power. You thought was real love, you gave your time, your heart, and maybe even a part of yourself that you now feel is missing. And now that it's over, you're sitting in silence, battling the constant why that echoes in your mind. But here's the shift. Instead of asking why they left, start asking what you learned. What did this experience reveal about your values, your boundaries, and the love you truly deserve? Every moment you spend replaying the past is another moment you delay your future. It's not about blaming them or blaming yourself. It's about finding meaning in the mess. Let yourself feel the full depth of it. Don't run from the pain, feel it, express it, let it move through you. Cry if you have to, journal until your hand hurts, sit in the quiet and listen because your heart is telling you. Then, slowly, begin to release it. You are not meant to stay broken. You are meant to rebuild. This isn't about bouncing back into life like nothing happened. It's about evolving into someone wiser, stronger, and more self-aware. Let your pain be the very thing that shapes you into a more grounded and fearless version of yourself. This is the time to rediscover who you are without them. Often, we tie our identity to someone else's presence, and when they leave, we feel like we've lost our foundation. But you are not defined by who left. You are defined by how you rise. Take this season of solitude and turn it into a season of self-discovery. Pour your energy into your passions, your poles, and your peace. Turn the ache your chest into drive. Let the hurt fuel your hustle. You are not just healing, are leveling up. Eventually, you'll realize the breakup wasn't a punishment, but a redirection. It made space for growth, for clarity, and for something better. One day, you might even find yourself grateful for it, not because of how it ended, but because of how it pushed you to finally see your worth. Closure won't come from them, it comes from you deciding this is no longer your story to suffer through, but your story to rise from. Bless the breakup. Let it be the lesson that unlocked your power. Because this pain, it's not the end. It's where you begin again, stronger than ever. Don't rush to escape the pain. Let yourself feel every ounce of it. Sit with the discomfort instead of running from it. Cry if you need to. Scream into a pillow. Write everything down, even the things that don't make sense. There's no shame in grieving what was lost, even if wasn't perfect. This is your heart processing a deep emotional wound, and pretending it doesn't hurt only buries it deeper. You don't have to act strong right now. You just have to be real with yourself. There's a difference between feeling your pain and living in it. Once you've allowed yourself to feel it fully, make the decision to begin letting it go. You are not meant to carry this break like a permanent weight. It's something that happened, not something that defines you. Bit by bit, release the resentment, the confusion, and the need for answers. Sometimes the closure you're waiting for never comes from another person. It comes from you deciding the pain has taught you enough. In the beginning, it might feel like the pain owns you. It shows up in your thoughts, your sleep, even your body. But slowly, if you let move through you instead of controlling you, it begins to lose its grip. You'll find yourself laughing again without guilt, smiling at your own progress, and feeling light where you once felt broken. That's when you know you've started to free it, not by forgetting, but by healing. This isn't about becoming numb or pretending you're okay when you're not. It's about giving your heart the space it needs to hurt so it can also have the space to heal. Pain isn't weakness, it's part of the process. But you don't need to live in it forever. Let it shape you into someone softer, wiser, and more powerful, not someone afraid to feel again. Your healing starts the moment you decide the pain is no longer your home. When a relationship ends, it can feel like a piece of your identity disappears with it. You begin to question who you are without that person in your life. The daily routines, the shared jokes, the small habits you build around them, they all fade, and in that space, there's a silence, feels less than familiar. It's tempting to fill it with distractions, or to chase after a version of yourself that only existed through their presence. But this is your opportunity to rediscover who you truly are beneath the layers that were shaped by someone else. Be them, you had dreams, values, and strengths that were entirely your own. Maybe you forgot some of those parts while you were busy trying to keep the relationship together. Maybe you compromised pieces of yourself to make things work. Now is the time to take all of that back, not out of bitterness, but out of love for the version you that's been waiting patiently to rise. This isn't about becoming someone new for revenge or to prove a point. It's about becoming again whole for yourself. Rebuilding your identity doesn't mean pretending like the relationship never happened. It means allowing the experience to add to your depth, not subtract from your worth. Every heartbreak carves space for more self-awareness. You begin to understand what you need, what you value, and what you'll no longer tolerate. That clarity is powerful. It becomes your guide as you shape a life that's built on your terms, not one tied to someone else's approval or attention. In this rebuilding, you'll notice your confidence returning not because someone validates you, but because you've begun to validate yourself. The fierce version of you, the one that doesn't rely on someone else to feel whole, is emerging. They are stronger, more grounded, and more at peace. You don't need a relationship to define you. You are already enough. And now, without the weight of who you thought you had to be, you're free to become exactly who you're meant to be. It's easy to slip in the habit of romanticizing the past, especially when the loneliness hits and the memories feel sweeter than they actually were. You start focusing on the good moments, the laughter, the affection, the feeling of being wanted, and forget the hurt, confusion, and the nights you cried yourself to sleep. Your mind filters out the red flags and leaves you with highlight reels that make you question why it all ended. But if it truly was the fairy tale you now imagine, it wouldn't have ended the way it did. There's a reason it broke, and that reason still matters. The danger of holding onto a sugar-coated version of the past is that it keeps you stuck. You begin comparing every present moment to a distorted memory. You stop seeing the potential in what's ahead because you're too busy mourning something that only felt right in fragments. Instead of replaying those curated scenes, redirect your imagination. Visualize a future where you wake up feeling calm instead of anxious, valued instead of questioned, seen instead of overlooked. That kind of love exists, but begins with you believing you deserve it. You have the power to design a future that is no longer defined by emotional roller coasters. Think about what a peaceful, fulfilling life looks like for you now. Imagine waking up in a space that feels like home, surrounded by people who nourish your soul, doing work that excites you, and growing in ways you never'd be. None of that requires the person you once thought you couldn't live without. In fact, the absence of that person may be exactly what creates the space for something far better. The fairy tale you're searching for doesn't exist in your past. It's being written right now in your healing, your self-respect, and your growth. Romanticizing your future doesn't mean rushing into something new. It means falling in love with your journey, your progress, and the person you're becoming. Let go of the illusion you've built around the past and start creating something real for your future, something grounded, honest, and full of possibility. There comes a moment after the heartbreak when things begin to clear. At first, everything feels blurry: your thoughts, your emotions, even your sense of reality. But slowly, as the noise quiets, clarity begins to rise. You start to see the relationship for what it truly was, not just what you hoped it would be. And in that clarity, you realize how much you tolerated, how often you made excuses, and how low your standards may have quietly fallen in the name of love or fear of losing someone. Pain has a way of acting like a mirror. It reflects back to you the parts of yourself that need attention, healing, and boundaries. What once seemed acceptable now feels impossible to go back to. The late plies, the emotional distance, the mixed signals, things you may have once brushed aside now stand out as deal breakers. Not because you've become bitter or overly picky, but because you've finally recognized your value. You now understand that love without respect, consistency, and mutual growth love its attachment dressed up in moments of comfort. This is your turning point. From here forward, your standards aren't based on desperation or loneliness. They are shaped by wisdom, experience, and the deep understanding of what your heart truly needs. You're no longer looking for someone's just to fill a space. You're looking for someone who can meet you in the space, bin yourself whole, healed, and confident. You're done settling for crumbs when you deserve the whole meal. And you're not afraid to wait. Because now you trust that peace is better than chaos pretending to be love. So as you move ahead, carry this truth with you. The pain you endured wasn't in vain. It sharpened your sense of self. It wrote the rules you once lived by in relationships. and it prepared you for the kind of connection that doesn't leave you questioning, yes, your worth. Your new standards aren't walls to keep love out, they are doors that only open for what's real, respectful, and aligned with the love you finally learned to give yourself. There's a sharp difference between loneliness and solitude, though at first they may feel the same. When a relationship ends, you're often left in a quiet space that used to be filled with noise, texts, calls, plans, shared laughter. That silence can feel unbearable, almost like a punishment. But if you sit with it long enough, without trying to distract yourself or run back to what's familiar, you begin to notice something. In that stillness, you can finally hear your own thoughts, your real emotions, the parts of yourself that may have been muted or ignored while traps someone else close. Solitude gives you room to meet yourself again, without the influence of another person's expectations or moods. You start to rediscover what makes you feel grounded and alive. You might realize how often you were compromising just to keep the peace or avoiding your own needs to prioritize someone else's. Now, there's space to your self-honest questions. What do I want from love? What do I value in myself? What am I no longer willing to sacrifice? These reflections aren't always easy, but they are the seasons of real transformation. It's in this quiet time alone that your self-worth starts to rebuild, not from validation, but from awareness. You begin to realize that you were never too much or not enough. The issue wasn't who you are, but who you were trying to become to hold on to someone who couldn't see your full value. The more connected you become to your true self, the less likely you are to chase someone who disconnects from you. That inner connections starts to feel more fulfilling than any temporary attention from someone couldn't stay consistent. Eventually, solitude stops feeling empty and starts feeling powerful. You begin to enjoy your own company, make decisions that align with your peace, and stop craving the chaos that once felt like passion. You realize that being alone isn't something to escape, it's something to embrace. Because in this space, you're no longer living for someone else's approval. You're living in alignment with who you are, and that version of you isn't just healing, they are rising. Heartbreak leaves behind a powerful kind of energy, raw, restless, and overwhelming. It's the ache that shows up late at night, the sudden wave of emotion that hits when you least expect it, and the fire that burns in your chest when you remember everything you gave. Most people try to numb it or escape it. But what if you redirected it? What if you took all that emotional intensity and poured it into something that serves you instead of consuming you? That pain has potential, not to break you, but to fuel your next chapter. There's something magnetic about people who use their pain as motivation. They don't wait for life to feel perfect again before they move. They move through the pain. They take it hurt and put it into workouts, late-night projects, new routines, and bold decisions. They don't sit around hoping someone regrets losing them, become the version of themselves they almost forgot existed. The one who dreams big, works hard, and refuses to stay down just because someone else walked away. This transformation doesn't require perfection. It just needs consistency and direction. Whether it's learning a new skill, starting a side hustle, getting healthier, or reconnecting with old goals, every small action you take channels your pain into progress. It becomes less about proving anything to others and more about proving to yourself that this pain will not define you. You're not running from the heartbreak, you're building something powerful with it. And the best part is, progress creates momentum. As you start moving forward, you begin to feel stronger, clearer, and more in control. The pain doesn't disappear overnight, but it changes shape. It turns into purpose. It becomes the reason you push harder, dream louder, and no longer settle. Heartbreak gave you energy, now you're giving action, direction. And that's where your power truly begins. Closure is something we are taught to wait for, like it's a gift that someone else has to hand us before we can move on. We think we need an explanation, an apology, or that one final conversation to make sense of everything. But the truth is, waiting for closure can keep you emotionally tied to a person who has already let go. It becomes a quiet form of self-sabotage, a delay in your own healing. The reality is, they may never give you the answers you're craving, and that's not something you control. What you can control is how you choose to move forward. You don't need their permission to heal. You don't need their words to find peace. Closure isn't about what they say, it's about what you decide. It's looking at the situation honestly, acknowledging what hurt you, and accepting that some chapters will end without a perfect conclusion. You get to define the meaning of this ending. You get to take the pieces, learn from them, and build something better without needing their participation. The story doesn't end because someone walked away, it evolves because you chose to keep writing it on your own terms. Letting doesn't mean pretending it didn't matter. It means it matters enough that you're willing to protect your future by releasing what no longer serves you. It means choosing peace over confusion and growth over stagnation. When you stop chasing closure from them, you start giving it to yourself. Through forgiveness, through clarity, and through the decision that your healing no longer depends on someone else doing the right thing. That power belongs to you now. And once you create your own closure, everything begins to shift. You stop looking back, hoping for validation, and instead start moving forward with self-respect. You begin to trust your ability to make peace with the past, even when the pieces didn't fall into place perfectly. You no longer need someone else to tie the loose ends, because you've found your own way to feel complete. And in that moment, healing becomes a choice, not something you wait for, but something you actively create. There's a shift that happens when you stop waiting for someone else to love you the way you deserve and start giving that love to yourself. It's not about pretending you don't care or putting on a mask of confidence. It's about turning inward and realizing that the way you speak to yourself, the way you treat yourself, sets the tone for everything in your life. If you keep showing up for everyone else but constantly abandon your own needs, the world will mirror that back to you. Self-love and selfish, it's foundational. Start paying attention to the small ways you show up for yourself. Speak to yourself with the same kindness and encouragement you'd offer a friend. Replace the harsh inner voice with one that is gentle but firm. Make time for things that light you up, even if no one else understands. Take yourself out for coffee, go on long walks, buy yourself flowers, or simply sit in stillness. These small acts are reminders that you are worth attention, and care. You don't need someone else to validate your worth. You get to claim it every single day. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not every apology requires a second chance. As you grow in self-love, you'll notice that your tolerance for chaos, half-love, and emotional inconsistency shrinks. You begin to see how valuable your energy is, and you stop handing it out to people who only take your time, your space, your mind. All of it matters. Loving yourself means setting standards not out of arrogance, but out of respect for the life you are building and the heart you are protecting. Eventually, the more you love yourself, the less you seek it from the outside. And ironically, that's when the right people begin to show up, not because you need them, but because you attract from a place of wholeness. You no longer beg for love or prove your worth. You simply are. And that quiet, steady confidence is more powerful than any temporary affection from someone who couldn't see your value. You become your own anchor, your own home, and your own peace, and there is nothing more powerful than that. It might sound strange at first, even impossible, to look at a breakup and feel anything close to gratitude. When you're in the middle of heartbreak, the last thing you want to do is thank the experience that tore you apart. But as time passes and emotions settle, you begin to see the breakup through a different lens. You start to recognize that what felt like rejection was actually redirection. That moment of being left or walking away was life clearing space for something healthier, something more aligned with who you're becoming. Without the pain, you might have stayed in something that no longer served you. You may have continued shrinking yourself to fit into a story that wasn't written for your highest self. That heartbreak pushed you to grow, to reflect, and to finally prioritize yourself in a way you may never have been. It forced you to confront uncomfortable truths, to build new habits, and to create a version of yourself that doesn't depend on someone else for worth or happiness. The very thing that hurt you may have actually been the starting point of your transformation. What once felt like a loss slowly views itself as a gift. You gain strength, clarity, and a deeper sense of what you truly need in a relationship. You learn that peace is more valuable than attention, that real love doesn't confuse you, and that you'd rather be alone than settle for less. That kind of knowledge doesn't come from easy experiences, from heartbreak, healing, and rising again. You begin to appreciate the breakup not because it didn't hurt, but because it woke you up to what you deserve. In time, you'll look back and realize the breakup wasn't just something you survived, it was something that shaped you. It gave you the chance to step into your power, to set new standards, and to fall in love with your own life again. What once broke you became the very thing that built you. And when that realization finally lands, you'll feel something unexpected gratitude. Not for the pain itself, but for the way it pushed you toward the person you were always meant to become. That's the hidden blessing in the goodbye.